The night had been unusually windy, the kind of storm that rattles windows and scatters leaves across every street. In the small town of Fairbrook, most residents stayed indoors, letting the rain hammer against their roofs like impatient fingers. But for one young woman, the storm wasn't the biggest danger that night. Her name was Claire Dawson, a 27-year-old nurse known for her warmth and easy laughter. She was last seen leaving a friend's birthday gathering around 10:15 p.m., wearing a denim jacket over a floral dress, her hair pinned neatly back with silver hairpins that caught the light whenever she moved. Friends remember her saying she would walk the short way home because she loved the smell of rain. She never made it. By morning, Fairbrook was buzzing with unease. Claire's bed had not been slept in, and her phone lay on the kitchen counter, dead. Her car was still parked near the cafe where she had met her friends. Something had happened on that short walk, and the police would soon find the first clue, glittering faintly in a puddle near the edge of town. It was one of Claire's hairpins. Detective Eli Moran had seen hundreds of missing persons cases, but there was something about the hairpin that caught his attention. It wasn't just an accessory. It had been bent out of shape, the metal warped like it had been twisted by force. And it was lying far from Claire's intended route home. A search team began combing the area. Within 50 yards, they found a second hairpin, partially buried in wet leaves. Then a third. It was as though someone had left a breadcrumb trail, only instead of breadcrumbs, it was small, delicate pieces of metal. To the untrained eye, it might have looked accidental, as if they'd simply fallen from her hair during the storm. But Eli had a gut feeling. This was not coincidence. If Claire had been taken, she may have deliberately dropped them, hoping someone would notice. The question was, where did the trail end? The hairpin trail led investigators to the edge of Hollow Pine Woods, a dense patch of forest on the outskirts of town. Locals avoided it at night, claiming it was too easy to get lost and too easy to meet the wrong kind of people. Rain still dripped from the trees as detectives fanned out, their flashlights cutting through the mist. Then came the fourth hairpin. This one lodged in the damp soil like it had been pressed there intentionally. The team pressed forward, finding more pins scattered along the faint outline of a footpath. But the further they went, the more uneasy they felt. These woods were quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects, just the sound of boots sinking into mud. And then, they found it, a scrap of floral fabric snagged on a low branch, torn roughly from what appeared to be a dress. It matched the outfit Claire had been wearing. Following the last visible hairpin, officers stumbled upon something unexpected, an old hunting cabin hidden deep within the trees. Its windows were boarded, the wood warped from decades of weather. There was no driveway, no mailbox, nothing to suggest it was still in use. But the lock on the door was new. Eli motioned for silence as the team circled the property. A faint light flickered from a crack between the boards. Inside, they heard movement, slow, deliberate footsteps, then the creak of a chair. They knocked. No answer. They announced themselves. Still nothing. When they broke the door open, the cabin appeared empty, at first. But in the far corner, near the fireplace, something metallic glinted in the flashlight beam, another hairpin, lying next to a length of rope. Back at the station, Eli laid out the evidence on the table, 7 hairpins, a torn scrap of dress, and the rope. The question gnawed at him. How long had Claire been in that cabin? Had they just missed her? Witness interviews revealed that a pickup truck had been seen idling near the woods around midnight. The driver? Unknown. The description? A tall figure wearing a dark hoodie, face obscured. A chilling possibility emerged. Claire might have been moved before police arrived, taken somewhere else entirely. And if that was true, her trail, her desperate attempt to leave clues, had been cut short. The urgency was no longer just about finding her. It was about finding her alive. As detectives canvassed the area, a name kept popping up, Warren Blake. Mid-40s, worked odd jobs, often seen hanging around places he didn't belong. He was known for his temper, and for the deep scar running from his left temple to his jawline. One witness claimed they'd seen Warren in a hardware store days before Claire vanished, buying rope and a large padlock. When questioned, Warren insisted it was for home repairs. But he didn't own a home, at least, not one on record. A check on his background revealed a disturbing history. 2 prior arrests for assault, both involving women, though neither case led to a conviction. The problem? There was no direct link between him and Claire. Not yet, until forensics came back. The hairpins, though ordinary in appearance, carried microscopic traces of skin cells, likely from whoever handled them last. Forensic results identified two distinct DNA profiles. One belonged to Claire, the other to an unidentified male. When the second profile was run through the system, it came back with a match, Warren Blake. Eli now had probable cause. The problem was, Warren had vanished. His truck was missing, his phone disconnected. The hunt for Claire had just turned into a manhunt for her suspected abductor, and every passing hour was closing the window to bring her back alive. A break came when a state trooper reported spotting Warren's truck parked behind an abandoned roadside motel about 40 miles away. The vehicle was coated in mud, the passenger door dented. Inside, police found Claire's denim jacket on the floor, still damp from the storm the night she vanished. But there was no sign of Claire herself. What they did find, however, was another hairpin, tucked deliberately into the seam of the mattress. This wasn't an accident. She was still leaving clues. And that meant one thing: she was still alive when she was last there. Search teams expanded their radius from the motel, scouring nearby properties. A tip from a local farmer led them to a storage shed on private land, a shed Warren was rumored to have used for storing equipment. When officers arrived, they found the padlock broken, the door slightly ajar. Inside was a chilling sight: an old metal chair bolted to the floor, a single light bulb hanging above it, and ropes discarded in the corner. But no Claire. One more hairpin lay in the dust beneath the chair. By now, it was clear. The hairpins were Claire's lifeline. She had been dropping them intentionally at every location Warren took her, risking punishment in the hope someone would follow the trail. Then came the most crucial lead: a call from a gas station attendant who recognized Warren from the news. He'd stopped for fuel less than an hour ago, heading north toward the state line. Eli knew this was it. If they didn't intercept him soon, Claire could disappear forever. State police were alerted, roadblocks went up, and patrol cars lined the highway. The rain had returned, washing the asphalt in a glossy sheen under the headlights. Warren's battered pickup was spotted weaving between lanes, his speed erratic. When officers moved in, Warren slammed on the brakes and darted down an exit ramp, tires screeching. The chase wound through backroads until he veered onto an unpaved trail leading into thick pine forest. The truck skidded to a stop. Warren bolted into the darkness, clutching something under his jacket. And then, as searchlights cut through the trees, a small glimmer on the ground caught Detective Eli Moran's eye, a silver hairpin, lying in fresh mud. Following the trail into the woods, officers spotted a rusted metal hatch partially hidden beneath moss and leaves. When they pried it open, a damp, narrow staircase descended into darkness. The air was stale, carrying the scent of mildew and something sharper, fear. At the bottom was a small, concrete bunker. A thin mattress lay in one corner, shackles bolted to the wall beside it. And on that mattress, a folded piece of paper. Written in hurried, shaky handwriting were the words, "I'm alive. Please don't stop." Beside it was yet another hairpin. Just as the search team cleared the bunker, a rustle came from the trees. Warren emerged, panting, face flushed with rage. He carried a crowbar and lunged at the nearest officer, screaming incoherently. The takedown was violent and fast. Officers wrestled him to the ground, cuffed him, and read his rights. Warren spat threats the entire time, insisting he hadn't done anything wrong. But Eli wasn't listening. His eyes were on Warren's jacket pocket. Inside was a small bundle wrapped in cloth, the last of Claire's hairpins, some bent, some broken. He had been keeping them like trophies. In the interview room, Warren sat slouched, eyes narrowed. He denied knowing Claire at first, then shifted his story, claiming she came with him willingly. But every detail he gave contradicted the timeline witnesses provided. When presented with the forensic evidence, his DNA on the hairpins, Claire's torn dress in his truck, his smirk faltered. Still, he refused to reveal where she was. Eli knew they were running out of time. Claire had been missing for over 48 hours, and without food, water, or warmth, her chances were dwindling. The pressure was on to break Warren before it was too late. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A junior officer reviewing traffic camera footage spotted Warren's truck passing through a rural crossroads the morning after Claire vanished, heading toward a part of the county dotted with abandoned farmhouses. One property in particular stood out: the Harper estate, long since deserted after a fire gutted the main house. Locals claimed squatters used the barns, but the land was mostly forgotten. The detail that mattered: the camera showed a glint of silver in the truck's passenger seat that matched Claire's hairpin design. A tactical team descended on the Harper property at dawn. They moved swiftly, checking the collapsed barn, the shed, and finally a root cellar beneath the remains of the house. Inside, they found her. Claire was curled in the corner, shivering beneath a thin blanket, wrists raw from rope burns. Her face lit up in disbelief when she saw Eli. The first thing she said, voice trembling, "Did you find them?" "The pins." She had risked everything to drop those hairpins, knowing each one could cost her more pain if Warren noticed. But she'd done it, and it had saved her life. At the hospital, Claire told investigators what happened. Warren had grabbed her from behind just after she left the cafe, forcing her into his truck at knife point. He took her to the cabin first, then moved her repeatedly, always afraid the police were close. She realized early on she had no phone, no weapon, only the hairpins in her hair. So she began leaving them behind in hopes someone would notice. She tried to drop them subtly, bending them to make them stand out, tucking some into places she thought would be searched. "I didn't know if anyone would even see them," she said. "But it was all I had." Warren Blake was charged with kidnapping, assault, and multiple counts of unlawful restraint. In court, prosecutors painted a chilling picture of a man who had hunted his victim and methodically moved her to avoid capture. The hairpins became central evidence, a physical map of her ordeal. Jurors were shown photos of each one, the exact location it was found, and the corresponding point in Claire's captivity. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, Claire sat in the front row, her hands trembling but her head held high. Warren was sentenced to life without parole. The case shook Fairbrook to its core. Candlelight vigils were held, and local businesses raised money for victims of violent crime. The police department received praise for their relentless search, but Eli always redirected credit to Claire herself. "She saved herself," he told reporters. "She thought ahead, she left a trail, and she never gave up." The silver hairpins, now stored in evidence, became a symbol of resilience in the community, a reminder that small acts of courage can lead to survival. Claire's story is one of fear, grit, and quick thinking. In the face of a predator, she found a way to fight back without weapons, without shouting, just with what she had in her hair. To everyone watching, pay attention to the details. If something feels wrong, speak up. If you ever find yourself in danger, remember that even the smallest object can become a lifeline if you use it wisely. And if you ever see something out of place, a trail of items, a bent piece of jewelry, anything unusual, don't ignore it. You might be the one who follows it to someone who desperately needs help.